Hello, welcome to another thrilling, obviously, episode of Prog Review. And before you're gonna say it's not prog, go and sit on a spike. Simple as. Your comments will be deleted. To put this in a place and time, over the Christmas period of 2019, sad news that Neil Innes of the Bonzos and Ruttles, some say Python, fan, passed on, which is it's just an absolute crime because we need people like this around. But yeah, he came and he went, and that's that. Now, for me, again, this is going to be more about me talking about Neil Innes than the actual record, so if you don't like it, sorry. For me, my introduction to Neil Innes goes back to a programme called the Innes Book of Records, which was on BBC Two when I was a lad, and it was a very curious show. Again, it's a time when TV was experimental and weird and progressive, somewhat progressive, and it was a show where he used his music along with skits. Again, you've got to see it. It's like they're like pop videos, but they're not. There's usually a comedy element to it. Do go and there's clips on YouTube. Do go and check it out. But it was, I remember seeing it and thinking, wow, because there was lots of things on, at that time, like things like Ripping Yarns, Michael Palin. There's a link to this. Everything connected, Python, But yeah, there was programs like the Ripping Yarns and the Innes Book of Records and all sorts of interesting stuff as a kid that I latched onto. And little did I know, again this is because you see things as a kid, you see things but you don't necessarily make the connection. And so Innes Book of Records was on there, and Vivian Stanchel appears on it again, from the Bonzos, but I kind of knew what the Bonzos were because I'd heard their stuff. Don't ask, these things leak in, but I didn't make the connection that it was all linked. And then later on, there was a kids show called The Book Tower, which actually ran at the same time as Innes Book of Records. But later on, Neil Innes appeared as one of the hosts of it. The original host being Tom Baker back in the day, and that was a kids show about books and reading. And again, Neil Innes cropped up everywhere. He was in a lot of kids' shows. Was it Puddle Lane? Raggy Dolls, dolls like you and me. Which again is a great series. And then he'd appear in adverts, and Neil Innes was always around. This is the thing, and it was only later on where all the pieces fall into place, and you go, the Bonzos, and then you see, of course, Magical Mystery Tour, the Beatles, and the Bonzos appear in that, and Do Not Adjust Your Set, which is before my time, but again, it was often mentioned in documentaries and things on the television, because again, a lot of comedy talent, David Jason, the Pythons, got their their first introduction there. So yeah, it was a kind of for me a very important cultural touchstone person, cornerstone of where I'm coming from. And then, like I say, it was the Bonzos later on, and again, a friend of mine, one of my mum's boyfriends, said, "Here is the first record," and because I was interested in it anyway because of Neil Innes. And I got to borrow Gorilla back in the day, and we played that one over and over again, and yeah, it kind of led us that way in. So yeah, I was very upset, very saddened by it. And the funny thing was, thanks to the world of the worldwide weird and the social media, I had an interaction with Mr. Innes over the Twitter, because he was a very big pro remain in the EU, and I'm very much discard all politicos. I don't believe in the EU, same way as I don't believe in the government at the moment. And you've got to remember the Bonzos recorded that classic song, whoever you vote for, the government always gets in. Very wary of political figures. So I was surprised to see that he was such a fervent Remainer. But then living in France, I guess that helps. You probably that's your card mark. But we had a very friendly exchange about having opposing views, and that's how it should be, pleasant, and that's what political discussion used to be like before everyone started living in the echo chamber. Then I followed different people, whether they Remain or Leave or left or right, because you should have a view of all of it, because then you can make the right decisions, you can draw the right opinions. If you stick with your own, you're only going to keep your own opinions. You're never going to change your mind. You're never going to grow. So that was an interesting thing. But yeah, like I said, very, very sad that he is no longer here to make more music. And I know he had an album out. I think there's going to be a Bonzo gig this year, because they've just won a court case to reclaim their name from a guy called Bob Carruthers and his company. The murky doings of the music industry. They're all swines, So that was that. So yeah, very sad. But this leads me on to this record, Neil Innes's Recycled Vinyl Blues. It's a compilation. It's a bit of an odd one. This came out in, I think it was 1994, and it's roughly the same time as this came out, which is the Bonzo's Chronology. I think it was called Chronology box set. Again, they was reissuing the Bonzo stuff and rejiggering it, extra tracks, and this came out as well. It's almost like and it follows very similar design. Wait there, don't move. I'll be back in a sec. Oh. I don't know if you can see it formed very, very similar kind of design aesthetic to it. Not that we're reviewing this one, but if you look, you can see they're very kind of similar. So I've got a feeling they were part of the same campaign, the issue campaign. So yeah, but back to this. It's a compilation, but it's not. It's really one album. It's Neil Innes's "How Sweet to Be an Idiot" album, and a couple of bonus tracks. So it's like B-sides and whatnot, which it's a bit of an odd thing, bit of an oddity. It's a bit of an oddity. So I kind of like it and I don't, if that makes any sense. I like it because whoops, I nearly dropped everything then. I like it because it sits well with this set. Look, they sit well together. They're good chums. But the fact that it's not really a compilation, it's just an album with some, and it's marketed like it's something new, or I just don't get it. Again, some of the tracks on here appear in his book of records, so it has a familiarity about it too. The thing about Innes's back catalogue is that when this was released in '94, you couldn't get How Sweet to Be an Idiot on CD or anything. Maybe a Japanese import. There are some dubious pressings out there. I don't know about their veracity and legality, but his back catalogue is really neglected, and that's a shame. So this was kind of a stopgap, an alternative, a way of presenting the album. It opens with the title track, Recycled Vinyl Blues, which for me is the best thing on it, because it is genius. It is purely genius, but there's a historical context to it, which many people won't be familiar with. If you're young, you won't necessarily pick up what it's about. There's two ideas going on here. In the 70s, there was a thing called the oil crisis, when OPEC and don't ask raised the value of the barrel of crude oil, and so the prices went through the roof, and there was queues at the petrol pumps. And one of the things that happened is that the music industry recycled vinyl. It melted down records and pressed new vinyl, and that's why some people say that certain pressings from certain times aren't as good because they use inferior vinyl. That's where it comes from, and that's the starting off point of this, is that to get a record made you have to recycle it. But it's also about recycling tunes and songs, kind of influences and that. That's how I read it. But it features, and this is where it's all connected, it features Michael Palin as the shopkeeper. So you have a nice little Python reference in there as well, and it's very clever because it uses bits of other music to propel the song along. And I think it's probably, again, one of the best things that Innes did. I think it's just so clever. I just think it's so clever, and it's a shame that it wasn't a hit, but it's on here. And then it's very much the How Sweet to Be an Idiot album. It features that track. It's actually isn't it? Yeah, it's a mono version of that of How Sweet to Be an Idiot, which, funnily enough, was lifted wholesale by a little known band. I think they're a Beatles tribute band called was it Oasis. They had a song out which I can remember. Was it called Anyway? But it was a hit. But it lifted the melody of How Sweet to Be an Idiot wholesale, and Neil Innes, he successfully took them to court and sued them. So there's a nice little bit of trivia there for you, if you're ever playing Trivial Pursuit or the quiz game down the pub. Do you remember those? Don't have them anymore because everyone's got mobile phones and can cheat. So there's that one. And like I say, some of the other tracks here appear in this book of records, so there's a familiarity about it. But I don't necessarily. But again, for me, because they are linked to the Innes book of records, when I hear them without the imagery, they feel half complete. And so that way, that show ruined the records, if that makes any sense, because I want to watch the videos that accompany them. No, just me then. Okay, just me. I think there's the Fluff on the Needle is another good standout track, which I think is an addition. And you get a track here called Bandwagon, which is a live version, which rounds it up. 18 tracks in total. So it's a bit of a lopsided, bit of an oddity. But at that time, if you wanted to hear that record, that's how you had to buy it. It's like he's taken off, and in his book of records, albums were available as a double pack in the early 2000s. Like I say, his back catalogue is woefully neglected and probably will remain so now, and that's a sad point. But yeah, I mean, the liner notes are quite interesting as well, because he writes about the people that he played with, Lucky Planet. Again, the late great Dennis Cowan, who was also the bass player with the Bonzos, who died tragically young, gets a mention. So does Ian Wallace, who went on to be in King Crimson, mentions that as well, and Ollie Housel as well, who's another casualty. And so he dedicates it to Dennis Cowan and Ollie Housel. So there you go. It's a bit of a strange one. And again, I don't feel that it's successful, but it is. I'm mixed, so I'm going to give it a 2.5 topless go-go's. But 5 because he's not here anymore. It's terrible, isn't it? But anyway, thank you for watching. I've witted on far too long about a record that no one's ever probably going to get, because this is probably deleted now. So that's that. But anyway, thank you, Mr. Innes, for all the joy and the fun that you brought us. Thank you for being the Bonzos and bringing the rattles out and cheese and onions. And thanks for all that, and thanks for tweeting at me and being gracious. And that's that. And then there's only one more thing to say, and that is prog on.